both sides of the prison walls. First as an inmate, now as a warden. Our national correspondent, Jamie Gangel, has his story. Juno, good morning.
Good morning, Brian. In the prison system, inmates and corrections officers will tell you their worlds are strictly divided, us and them. But in Oklahoma, Ray Little has crossed the line, and law enforcement officials say he is the best prison warden they have ever had. Northwest Oklahoma. For miles, nothing but the desolate beauty of farmlands, until you get to the William S. Key Correctional Center. At first glance, there is nothing unusual about this prison, until you meet the warden. When Ray Little walks across the prison yard, he commands a special respect, because 28 years ago, Warden Ray Little was inmate Ray Little. When the prisoners find out your story, what do you think they think?
They call me a liar. They say, no, you couldn't, you wouldn't. That's just something that you're saying. It's not true. And then, because I wear a patch, you buy into the rumor that I was involved in this knife fight and somebody took my eye out.
The truth is you lost your eye as a kid.
Yeah.
From a cherry bomb.
Yeah, that's the truth. But it's just not as, it doesn't have as much glamour in terms of the story. So I said, yeah, it was on knife fight. You should see how the other guy looks.
The true story of how Ray Little went from convict to prison warden is no less dramatic. It started in New York City's South Bronx. How tough was this neighborhood?
It was pretty tough. As a matter of fact, right on this very street, I can remember being shot at years back over a deal gone bad.
His mother raised 6 children alone, and they were so poor, he remembers eating plaster from their walls.
The walls would only be broken down, and we would just dig into the plaster and chew it.
You were eating the walls because you were hungry.
It feels young.
By the age of 12, Ray was hustling cards in the street. By 17, he was holding up grocery stores to support a heroin habit. By 20, Ray was arrested, convicted for armed robbery, and shipped upstate to one of the toughest prisons in the country, Attica. Fair to say that prison was probably the luckiest thing that ever happened to you?
Probably so. I think that had it not been for getting caught and going to prison, that the likelihood is that I would be dead.
Ray was in Attica during the riots in 1971 when 43 inmates and staff were killed, but luckily was not involved. He served 3 years. Does it ever feel close, or is it just a lifetime ago?
It only feels close in dreams.
You dream about it?
I have nightmares about it.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the dream?
Being there, or being returned there, and not knowing why I'm there. Can't explain it. Those kinds of nightmares. But it's real refreshing when I wake up.
Does it look very much the same?
Ugly is ugly.
25 years later, we took Ray Little back to Attica. Do you remember your number?
24/12. Yeah. Yeah, something that you don't, I don't think you'll forget.
No question, Ray never wanted to go to prison, but he admits it was a turning point. It was here he had a revelation.
There is a fear that permeates the whole prison system on the part of inmates, and that is the fear of dying there. Dying with no one. Dying without one to love and one to be around. I didn't want to die there.
That's been real, like a pleasure.
Ray credits his success to one man. Charlie Von Boskirk was the director of education at Attica. He had a feeling.
Yeah. And you don't get that about everybody. The counseling business, why? Some you know are faking it, and some are for real. And I felt like he was one that was for real. We can all be slick, we can all be, that way, but you gotta have some bottom down there, some heart. I think that's what Ray's got.
talking about him, huh?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I invested a lot in him. And he became really kind of like a son I'd ever had.
I don't want to describe it as though a relationship that a father should have with a son, because it's more than that. In the business, we have a phrase that says, "Would you be willing to die in place?" Charlie's the person I'd be willing to die in place for.
After Attica, Charlie had one goal: to keep Ray from going back to the South Bronx. So he helped him get a basketball scholarship to his own alma mater, Phillips University in Enid, Oklahoma. Ray was one of the few blacks, and Oklahoma was a different world. So you have cows, you have horses, you have snakes.
Have snakes, have plenty of snakes. Have plenty of snakes.
Ward, this is a long way from the South Bronx, yeah?
Almost like Dorothy and Toto.
But Charlie's gamble paid off. Ray made it through college, settled down, started a family, and applied for the one job everyone told him he could not get.
I asked him, what's the possibility of a person that's been in the system coming back into the system and working? He said, absolutely none. We would never let him back in. And I said, by God, you will. How you doing?
Since then, Ray Little has spent his life in prisons because he wants to.
Come up here.
What was it like coming up through the system? Did everyone know you were an ex-con?
Sure felt like it.
And at William S. Key, he is trying to make a difference. There are two groups of prisoners here: older inmates doing long sentences,
Right there! Take it!
and first-time offenders sentenced to one of the toughest boot camps in the country.
1, 2, 3, 1.
At first, corrections officers were skeptical,
Well, keep a real good eye. We have a long-term already.
but the warden quickly earned their respect.
I was wondering what kind of message is that going to send to the officers. But after watching him work, I think we may have an advantage because of his background.
And I think that was the turning point. Man, what?
And once they get over their shock, inmates say this warden is a role model. Were you skeptical?
Very much. And there was a lot of criticism on New York. We have a big development coming in to take over development. What's our lifestyle going to be like now? Is it going to get easier? Is it going to be harder? And
What did you find out?
both. Both.
Why?
Because he does expect so much out of us.
Carry on.
And the warden expects even more in his boot camp, where he hopes to give inmates a second chance.
Yeah, it takes for a moment. Expect 10 people. Here. Come over here. Here. Come over here.
Like Warden Little, these young men got into trouble at an early age.
How many of you ever had any experiences all with drugs or alcohol? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He's lying.
The warden's goal is to give them an education and make the prison experience so miserable
Rock your butt up!
they never want to come back.
I will get you through this program. I'll damn sure get you that, son. It's on you. It's not on me.
Despite his own success, Ray Little is always sure to make one point with his inmates. He knows that the stigma of being an ex-con never goes away. Does that bother you after all of these years, or does it just go with the territory?
It always bothers me. It gets to be a point where I feel as though I've shown, I've proven, I should be accepted like everybody else. I'm the warden of a minimum security corrections facility, but if I were to go out today and apply for a stocker's job, they would probably say, we'll call you back.
And they wouldn't call you back.
And they wouldn't call me back.
But Ray Little is a constant reminder you can create your own opportunities.
Just because you're strapped with a situation doesn't mean you have to carry it for the rest of your life.
Things can change.
You can make things change. You just have to see it, believe it, and achieve it.
Ray Little certainly is the proof, and Brian, Oklahoma deserves deserves credit for practicing what it preaches. We called the 49 other states. 20 said it could never happen in theirs. Everybody else, highly unlikely.
And New York even had a problem letting him back inside the walls of
They
Africa.
had to get the governor's permission because they wouldn't allow a former inmate back in, even if he was a prison warden.
It's amazing. Gentlemen, thanks very much. Take care of yourself. We're going to come on back.